Welcome to another episode of the No More Interruption Show. I am your girl, Hazel, the founder of BGI & Co. and Big Girl Interrupted. Ladies, it's time to join the conversation and own your journey. In this podcast, we will explore areas of all areas of a woman's life with confidence, from relationships to personal and professional development to employment, education, entrepreneurship, marriage, sex, divorce. There are no limits here. It's all about developing a positive mindset as we move through our interruptions. So today so excited that I get to sit down and chat with Tara. So Tara, introduce yourself.
Hello, it's nice to meet you. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
I'm Tara Marlow. I am a fiction writer. I am in Tasmania, Australia, and I write women's fiction and suspense novels.
Amazing. Beautiful. So let's hop into today's podcast episode and just jump into the questions. So, what was or what is currently an interruption in your life?
What was, because I'm kind of on the other side of being interrupted. I was actually living in the US for about 20 years, and I was working for a company, one of the most successful companies in the world.
Uh-huh.
And I was in a job that I liked, but I didn't really love. And the problem that I was having was I was just stuck. Professionally, I wasn't really advancing. I was getting more and more pressures on my role. I was actually doing 2 or 3 jobs in one and working 70-hour weeks, trying to maintain a healthy marriage, a tween daughter, and it was just not working out. It was just not. I was not in a good place mentally, physically. My relationships were going down the toilet. And, in the job that I was in, I would actually spend I'm going to say lunch times because there really weren't any.
Right.
But any space that I had, I would live vicariously through people who were traveling the world and running travel blogs. I would just
Mm,
dive into those and think that's what, I would love to do that someday.
right.
Um, and, I just felt stuck and I didn't know how to get out of it. So that was the big hurdle in trying to get unstuck and trying to figure out what was next for me.
Mhm.
And trying to really improve those relationships, improve my health, because I knew if I was going to stay in that job, I was probably going to be in the ditch,
Right.
in a couple of years. It was not in a healthy place. So yeah, it was. That's kind of the place I was in. I needed to get out, and I needed to find something that was more healthy for myself.
Mm. So while you were in that space, because we know that you're on the other side of it, but when you were there, what are some of the limiting beliefs that came up for you or that you were experiencing at that time?
Um, One of them was in that environment. It was all about climbing the ladder. You had to get to that next position.
Right.
And, I had a couple of bosses that I absolutely loved. And there were a couple that would just dangle that carrot. Like, if you just do this, if you just do that, then we'll get the promotion. And, I just, I, I am a perfectionist. I am a control freak, and I just thought if I just keep going, then that will fall into place. And it just, kept on going the same way.
Right.
So, that was one of the big hurdles that I needed to face and to really move, get past.
Yes.
Um, and then the other one was, my relationship with my daughter was just, I was seeing her growing up and I just knew that I was missing out, and I was going to lose my daughter in the process in one form or fashion.
Right.
So, yeah.
And you don't real like if it's good that you realized it then so that you can like put a stop to it. and then shift, right? Because some of
Yeah.
us don't. Some of us just keep going. And because you, like you said, you got that carrot dangling in front of you, you're chasing that carrot.
Yeah.
And you just don't.
Constantly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, constantly. And, to be honest with you, it wasn't until I needed a vacation. And I said to my daughter, if you could go anywhere on a road trip, where would you want to go? And she said, I want to go to Mount Rushmore. I thought, really? Of all the places in the US? Okay.
Uh-huh.
So we were living in Texas, in Austin, Texas at the time. And so we took a road trip together for almost 2 weeks, and we drove
Wow.
to Mount Rushmore and back. And it was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. But it was that road trip that made me think, okay, this is what I'm missing out on. And had I
Yeah.
not taken that road trip, I don't know if I'd really, had seen it as clearly.
Oh, wow. And
Yeah.
that's the thing. Sometimes we have to do things and it will just open our eyes to,
Yeah.
other
Sometimes you have to
opportunities.
step out of your
Yes.
life, yeah, to get some
Yeah.
clarity. Mhm.
Wow. And does she know that that's what that experience has? Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
beautiful.
yeah, and I
Beautiful.
mean, that was in 2010,
Uh-huh.
and in 2011, I still was chasing the dangling carrot,
Right.
but thinking, at least I was aware at that point of what was going on, and at that point, there was one night she came into me, and I was working for a boss in Ireland,
Yeah.
and her boss was in California. So I was working, it was 24/7. I was always on.
Right.
And I was at home one night, and she said, Mum, I have a question. And I said, Yep, just give me 5 minutes. I'll come back to you. I'll come into your bedroom. Went into her bedroom, and I get really emotional when I think about this.
Mhm.
Um, she's laying on her bed sobbing.
Oh.
And she said, What's the matter? And I said, I only had a question. It was only 5 minutes. You said 5 minutes, and it's been 3 hours.
Oh.
And I knew then, I thought,
Mm.
okay. And I went out to my husband into the living room, and I said, Oh my God, I feel so bad. Natalie just said this. And he said, Yeah, you do that all the time to both of us.
Wow.
Yeah. I quit my job very quickly after that, because I knew that, that was not a
Yeah.
good place to be in. So she knows that road trip, and that moment
Uh-huh.
was my aha moments.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So what were like so in that moment, what were some of the like as you no, as you've gone past all of that, what are some of the positive mindsets that because you had to travel through that moment, right? You had to
Mm,
make the decision to make that shift to leave. So
yeah.
what was that experience like? And then what were some of the positive mindset things you were saying to yourself?
Well, the things that I started to think, this job that I've been in, and I had been working for that company for about 20 years at that stage. It was a
Mhm.
long time.
Yeah.
And I thought, what's next for me? And all of a sudden it started to open up of, you know what, I could do X, I could do Y. And, like those travel blogs that I was looking at, I wanted to be a travel blogger. I so wanted to just pursue my photography. I wanted to pursue my writing. And I figured that was the next step for me. And so I started to focus my energies on that. And one of the goals that I had always had, so
Mhm.
I've had two goals in my life, two big goals.
Mhm.
One is to travel, the
Mhm.
other is to be a writer. And I, with the travel blogging, I used to tell people in that corporate job, when my daughter leaves for university, I'm going to travel the world. I'm going to take that moment, and that's going to be my time, and I'm going to travel the world. And I
Mhm.
had a guy in that job scoff at me, and he went, You'll never do that. I did that for 3 years. When my daughter went off to
Beautiful.
university, I traveled the world for 3 years. And,
Beautiful. Hope
it's
you
so
sent you cards or like indirect messages of those experiences.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So, and part of that was I was writing as a travel blogger.
Mhm.
I was living that life that I had lived vicariously through. my expenses. It was I was living the life. So, I kind of went check on both of those big goals. So, it opened up one that got and chasing. The other part was, why am I chasing a carrot for somebody else?
Right.
I need to be chasing my own carrot.
Yes.
So
Beautiful. Yeah.
blown. I can now health back. It's back. So let's look what else I need to focus on. And those were, what are my dreams that I want to pursue?
Right.
Because I'd put those aside for too long.
So now that you've achieved your travel goals,
Mm-hmm.
right? You experienced that and you wrote 2 books. What are your goals now? I think you're frozen.
I might have. Okay. Back.
Yes, I can hear you again. You're moving.
It's good. Okay. Okay, great. I'm just going to put everything on. Yeah, close everything off. My traveling is still continuing. I am living in Tasmania in Australia,
Right.
and I only moved here in 2019, right before the pandemic. And so the travel goal is still occurring.
Okay.
The writing is also still happening. So are you there?
Yep, I'm here. You're here.
Okay. All right. I've turned everything off, so I should be all right. So the traveling goal is still happening. I'm still continuing to travel.
Yeah.
We're basing ourselves in Tasmania. So that way, one of the things of traveling full time for 3 years, living out of a suitcase was you kind of get tired of that after a while. And I'm still continuing to write books. So now I know that that is my passion and that's what I want to pursue moving forward. I'm working on my 4th book at the moment. So, and I've got 2 lined up behind it.
Wow. And where have you traveled so far? Can you
I'm
hear
sorry,
me?
I lost you for a minute. Yep, I can hear you now.
So where have you traveled so far? Where are some of the places you've traveled to?
So initially we did a 10-month road trip through Australia out of our car. We should have done it in a camper van, but no, we did it in our car. But like I said, we did house sitting as we went. So, that made it a little easier.
Right.
After that, I actually left my husband in Tasmania and I traveled by myself for nearly a year. So I road tripped through New Zealand, the US, Iceland for a little while. Then I went to England, France, and then I did something that was another mind-blowing and life-changing experience. And that was walking the Camino de Santiago, which is a 500-mile walk across Spain.
Yeah.
I did that in 2018, and then I went back and I did it again in 2019, this time with my husband. Yeah. So, and then we traveled through Canada for a while, on like Vancouver, that area.
Yeah.
And more of the US. Where else have we been? Oh, and Japan.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So been to quite a few places, but there's still a lot of places on my list.
Oh, amazing. So with all those goals that you've achieved and you're continuing to work towards them and achieve them, do you have a reset plan? Or do you know what a reset plan is?
I do know what a reset plan is. I think I've already done at least 2 of those.
Oh!
Yeah, the first one
What
was
is it?
leaving my job
Mhm.
in the US and
Yeah.
resetting and trying to, working for myself.
Uh-huh.
And the second reset plan was, when I left my husband in Tasmania, we actually separated for a while because I needed the space. Um,
Mm,
and having that time for myself to really understand what I wanted out of my life and
right.
to reset, and figure out what that looked like.
Uh-huh.
And then walking the Camino gave me such clarity to be able to do that, and gave me the kind of took away all the noise so I could really do some deep
Deep.
thinking and assessing. Um, but I think the other one was the third one. I probably have done a third one is, when we were in lockdown,
Mhm.
having a look at, once I had written the first book, my goal was only to write one book and to get published, but
Right.
now I'm writing book number 4 and, have more, lined up. So I think that's the next phase and the next reset is, really focusing on my career as an author.
Mm. And so can you tell us a little bit about, your the books? I see there's 3 books behind you? Yes.
There's 3
Yes,
books.
there's 3
Yep,
books. So can you give us a little synopsis of each one
sure.
or what they're about?
Um, yeah, so Camino Wandering is the first one,
Mhm.
and that a lot of people who walk the Camino de Santiago, they actually write memoirs, and
Oh,
I, after walking the second Camino with my husband, I wanted to write something that kind of talked about those experiences, but they were 2 completely separate experiences.
mm.
Just doing it solo versus walking with your partner,
Yeah.
so different. So, I wrote the memoir. It was a 90,000 word snooze fest. I got to the end of it and I thought, I don't even want to read this. Why would anybody else want to read this? So,
People wanna
kind of
read it.
ditched that idea. Sorry?
I
You
said
want to
people
read it?
will wanna read it. Yeah.
Well, yeah, maybe. But what I ended up doing was I took all those pieces of the Camino that I love, like all those stories that I found along the way, and then I weaved in a women's fiction through it. So it's a fiction novel, but it's set
Okay.
on the Camino. So it's
Ah,
a story of 3 women who are discovering who they are and what they're made of.
mm,
So that's Camino Wandering. The next one, it's a series. The second one is called The Decisions We Make. And
right.
it's not a continuation of Camino Wandering and those
Mhm.
characters, but the Decisions We Make is set in Tasmania. And that one is, again, a women's fiction. And it's the story of 2 childhood friends determining the decisions that they made and whether they were the right ones for them, and basically hitting the reset button.
Oh,
And the characters from Camino Wandering are kind of woven into that storyline as well.
okay.
Um, and, and then my suspense, this one,
Mhm.
is the Beneath the Surface. And that one was actually the first book that I wrote, but not published. And that one is about a 17-year-old girl who's been on the run with her father since she was 5, but she doesn't know why. And so it is her story of discovering the truth
Right.
and who she is
Ah,
and what she's made of.
right.
But yeah, Camino Wandering was definitely from my experience, but it's a lot more woven through.
Mm. I
Yeah.
really like the stories. I'm gonna check them out. Are they
Okay.
are the like, you provided us links to them, right? Did you?
Yes.
Okay, and
Yeah.
are they available on Amazon?
Mhm.
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
Awesome.
Worldwide.
Yay.
Yeah. They're also available directly on my website. So if people like ebooks, they can get it directly from me.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Now, do you celebrate because you've achieved a lot of goals? How do you celebrate yourself and celebrate your goals and your achievements?
I don't. Honestly, I struggle with this one,
Uh-huh.
um, because, you know, my my past life in my corporate life was as a
Mhm.
project manager. And so for me, it's like, done, check, done, check. Okay. Publish the book, great, check. Got all the marketing stuff to do, check, 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 and then it's just moving on to the next thing. I mean, as soon as I publish a book, I am
Uh-huh.
so eager to get into the next one because, the lifespan of taking an idea for a book to publication might be anywhere from, and I have a friend who does this. She writes one every 6 months. I put out a book once a year, but the timeline that it takes between
Yeah,
drafting it and editing it and going through all that,
mhm,
you as an author, I'm done with that. I'm done with that story, ready to move
right,
on. I want to get back into the next one. So I have a hard time just saying, I need to stop. I need to celebrate. Hey, I just published another book, or I just, whatever it is. The only
right.
time that I have truly celebrated was when I finished walking the Camino the first time. When I got to Santiago de Compostela,
Mhm.
I sobbed and I just thought, oh my gosh, I'm so proud of myself that I accomplished this goal and I did it. One, I actually walked 500 miles, but I didn't think that I would be able to do it because um, getting to the starting point, I had sketchy knees. My knee went out on me as I was getting onto the plane.
Oh, wow.
I was recovering from a a twisted ankle from my time in Iceland. Halfway through, I threw out my back, and I couldn't walk. I mean, for like hours, and I had to
You
get an
were
osteopath.
determined.
I was very determined, and then I got pneumonia as well. In a space of 45 days, all this happened to me. And a past boss said to me, if I look up the word perseverance in the dictionary, it's going to have your name next to
Mhm.
it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I thought, yeah, probably. But anyway, so that's the only time that I've really, because I had to deal with all of that. And by the time that I
Mhm.
got to the end, I thought, great, I finally did it. And I
Yeah,
celebrated. But everything else, yeah, I really struggle to that. I have to make a conscious effort to actually stop and celebrate the accomplishment because I just move on to the next thing.
yeah. I think with your next book, you should celebrate it because you will be an author of 4 books. You need to
Yes,
celebrate that achievement.
yes. I promise you I will.
Yes. I wanna see you celebrate.
Okay.
Awesome. So before we wrap up this interview, tell people where they can connect with you, how they can connect with you. Um, do you offer like what other like do you besides writing and travel blogging and how do they access your blogs and stuff like that? Can you give us all the juicies details?
Sure. So I have a website and it is called The Crackpot Writer. Um, Mostly because my writing process is a little wacky. I write a lot about my writing process
Uh-huh.
and, as well as just random thoughts. And, they can be a little wacky at times. So it's The Crackpot Writer. I am on Facebook. I am on Instagram. Those are the two platforms that I'm primarily on. My books are available everywhere. So Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Kobo, anywhere that you find good books.
Right.
If it's not in your bookshop, you can request it. They can order it in, and it's also throughout libraries around the world as well. Um,
Amazing.
but yeah, yeah. So that's where I am, and I'm online all the time. So yeah, please stop by, say hello, tell me if I'm off the cuff. That's fine.
And encourage her to celebrate.
Yes, encourage me. Just remind me that I need to do that because, yeah,
Yes.
I'm really horrible at that. Yeah.
It feels so good. Okay, so the way that I like to wrap up our interviews and our chats is with rapid fire questions.
Okay. Let me take.
Are you ready?
Mhm.
So, what is 2 to 3 action steps you would encourage a woman who is experiencing an interruption right now to take?
Stop and really look at what makes your heart sing, what lights you up when you talk about it, and write that down. And write down little goals in order to get there. Because I didn't go from corporate project manager to author, in a space of just, flipping the switch. There were a lot of steps along the way to get there. So, yeah, visualize what really makes your heart sing, what really lights you up, and then
Mhm.
write out goals of small goals to get there, because you will eventually get there.
Amazing. Thank you. And who is someone that inspires you?
Any woman who has overcome odds,
Mhm.
single mothers who are struggling to put food on the table, women who really understand who they are and what made them. No one woman really inspires me. I'm inspired by people's stories, and
Mhm.
particularly women who really find their passion and work towards it. And I love
Yeah.
sharing those stories. So if you have people on your podcast that want to connect with me too, I would love to hear from them because I love um, to particularly I love to interview authors,
Okay.
and hear their stories. And anybody who has walked the Camino de Santiago, I love speaking to people who have done that to really understand, because a lot of people walk it for a lot of reasons.
Right.
And so I love hearing the stories as well.
Oh, okay. Okay. I will definitely pass them on and connect you with them.
Great.
And what's a non-negotiable in your life?
Hmm. Talking to people on the phone. I hate talking to people on the phone. I will text them, I will email them.
Uh-huh.
Um, I guess it's not a non-negotiable. If I have to do it, I will do that.
Right.
But honestly, a non-negotiable is finding time to focus on my health,
Mhm.
because you know walking is important. That's a non-negotiable. I need to, yeah, and I think every person needs to really listen to your body,
Mhm.
because it will scream at you if it needs more than what you're giving it.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to accept what it's asking for, even though if you don't
Mhm.
want to.
Right.
Yeah. And what's your go-to self-care activity or experience?
Um, hmm. On a day-to-day, week-to-week basis, I like to
Mm,
take at least half a day to a day, usually Sundays or Mondays because I have a flexible schedule, to, do things like paint my nails and do a face mask and read a book and just relax and get out of my own headspace.
yeah.
But on a larger scale, I'm going back to walk the Camino next year, for the
Oh,
third time, because I really, for self care, that is the
yeah.
best thing you can do, because, like I said, it cuts out all the noise and it lets you get back to the basics and really gain some clarity.
Mm,
Even if it's just, and I'm walking it next year with some friends. So it'll
okay.
be a completely different experience yet again.
Yeah.
But,
And then you're gonna write another book
that's
about
the
it.
plan. The third book in a series. That's the plan. So it's my
Oh,
research trip. Yeah. But yeah,
beautiful. I
but
love it.
for mental health, it's great, and it
Mm,
does give you for me, it's a self-care thing. It gives me some space for a while.
yeah, yeah. And when you go out there, how long do you usually stay?
Well, because it's the other side of the world for us,
Yeah.
I usually am in Europe for about 2 or 3 months.
Okay.
But for the walk, the first time it took me 45 days, the second time it took me 54.
Uh-huh.
And I'm planning on maybe 60 for the next one. Just taking my
Okay.
time and smelling the roses and yeah, but really
Mhm.
taking some time out. And, like I said to you before, everything is check, move on to the next, check, move on to the next.
Right.
So this is my time to just kind of take a long break and, okay, yeah,
Yes.
self care.
Yes. Self-care and celebrate at the end.
Yes. I'll take photos and send them to you.
Yes.
I will post them anyway.
Yes. Good. Awesome. Well, I want to thank you, Tara, for coming on to the show. This was an amazing conversation. I learned so much.
Thank
Um,
you.
and I look forward to seeing your travels. And I'm going to check out one of your books because there's one
Great.
that definitely resonated with me. So I'm going to check it out. And I will definitely connect you with other people that I come in contact with
Great.
who also have the same experiences as you.
Great. That'd be perfect. Thanks for
Yeah.
having me. It's been a lot of fun.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you.